Hey, what's up there? 49 faithful. It's the ninernut. And there's no way beating around the bush, but Sunday's loss absolutely sucked. Um, Coming into this game, I had a feeling it was going to be a trap game. I think any fan would have thought it was going to be a trap game because we never beat Minnesota. We don't win in Minnesota. And even though last year Minnesota had a totally different team in terms of Kirk Cousins, in terms of um, Alexander Mattinson, um, you know, KJ Osborne, Daniel Hunter, I got to say, man, the Vikings look legit. And, I saw something today, yesterday, I think it was Dan Orlovsky, who I'm really not a big fan of on ESPN. He was talking about how Kyle Shanahan was outcoached by Kevin O'Connell and Brianflores. First off, let me say this: Kevin O'Connell is a phenomenal coach. We knew that last year. Brianflores is a phenomenal coach as well. I don't know why Brianflores does not have a head coaching job, but he is a stud defensive coordinator. I thought he did a phenomenal job on Sunday. He gave our offensive line an absolute fit. He gave Brock Purdy trouble. My hat off to him. And he's not doing it with Daniel Hunter. He's not doing it with a lot of other people. He's doing it with just regular. I shouldn't even say regular. I should just say other players. Pat Jones, who's 2 weeks, he's got 4 sacks. Andrew Van Ginkel, of course, came over from the Miami Dolphins. He's an absolute animal. Um, Harrison Smith, who's been in Minnesota his entire career, he's just like a staple of longevity and defense. So, my hat off to that defense, man. They had our number. There were times that we were moving the ball upfield and it looked like it was going to take a turn, but it just never really flipped. We never were able to flip it. First off, let's just talk about here's my opinion. Going back to the whole Shanahan getting out coach thing, I didn't like the way Shanahan called this game because the first 3 plays of the game were all passes. If you notice that first possession we had the ball, I don't think we ran the ball once. I didn't understand that whatsoever. When Monday night, we were run heavy. Now, that being said, Jordan Mason looks amazing. Over 100 yards or just about 100 yards this game. That's 2 back-to-back 200 yards games for him, for a guy who was never drafted. So you would think after the game he had Monday night, you're coming out running and pounding that ball. I mean, I don't know why we got away from that in this one. I really don't understand what the game plan was, other than watching the Vikings last Sunday against the Giants and kind of analyzing that game tape. If I had to, my thing would have been to, okay, so you obviously don't want to give Sam Bradford a hot start because he started 10 of 10 in that game. Now, Jordan Addison was banged up for this game. Ty Chandler, you knew, could be a potential threat, which he was against us. And, you had to put pressure on Sam Bradford. We've seen the game tape. Him under pressure is not the best thing. He either throws a pick or he'll get off to the run. Well, in this game, he got off to the run. He made a couple of big runs, and I understand the defense was in. The linebackers were pulled back to defend against the pass, but there was nobody in the middle of the field, and Sam Bradford was running around like Randall Cunningham or Michael Vick, if you will. Ty Chandler absolutely killed us off the edge. And look, here's where I think the game was lost. We didn't start the way we should have. What we really do better is when we monopolize the clock, the first drive, with the running game, pounding into their defense, which we should have by setting precedents. Because you knew coming into this game you were going up against a defensive guru when it came to Brianflores. And you knew after watching against the Giants, this is a team that's got a lot to prove. Nobody picked the Vikings to do anything, being that there's no Kirk Cousins. There's no Dalvin Cook, obviously, for the second season. Who's this other second receiver other than Jordan Addison? But a lot of people have had questions about him to complement Justin Jefferson. There's no TJ Hawkinson. He's injured. There's no Daniel Hunter. Okay. So they've been depleted to an extent at certain positions. Now, that being said, they're going to play with a chip on their shoulder, obviously. And that's the way they looked these last 2 weeks. And the first week, obviously, wasn't a fluke against the Giants, even though the Giants are god-awful. This week, man, they kicked the shit out of us. And sometimes I think it's a good thing. I'm happy it happened earlier in the season rather than later. But I don't think we started correctly. We gave them the ball right back. They came down the field. We were able to hold them for a little bit. And then look, Shanahan opts to go for it on fourth down rather than kick the field goal, and I still don't get it. I mean, I know only would have been 23-20 if you kicked that field goal. Obviously, no, it wouldn't have been 23-20 because if Shanahan opted to kick the field goal, the Vikings, who stopped the 49ers on the fourth down, deep inside San Francisco, deep inside, I'm sorry, Viking position, Viking field, that touchdown to Justin Jefferson doesn't happen. Now, on that note, that was the backbreaker of the game right there. Right there, that was the backbreaker of the game. If you look, there was double coverage there, I believe. But it's Justin Jefferson. It's probably the best wide receiver in football. I don't know what the defensive scheme was there. I don't know, because it looked to me that Sam Bradford had all day to throw the ball. In fact, and I will say, I thought the defensive line looked a lot better. We haven't seen much of Javon Hargrove at all. Leonard Floyd, we've seen limited. It was the Nick Bosa show, of course. There's no shock there. There was a lot of holding against him once again, but he was able to generate 2 sacks. One, Bradford pretty much ran into his arms. But I thought Bosa had a phenomenal game. But other than that, we didn't get a lot of pressure on Bradford. We allowed him to stay out there, stay back there. Now, if it wasn't for Fred Warner, who has played his tail off the last 2 weeks, we don't get an interception that would have really made the lead. It would have made maybe the lead 9 points, maybe the lead 13 points, how they would have scored a field goal or a touchdown. But if we kick a field goal on that possession, Minnesota does not score on that touchdown, which means it would have been 20-16 us, because if you do the math, if you subtract that touchdown from the Vikings, it's 16 points. If you add the field goal to that to the 17 that we scored, it's 20. So we win that game 20-16. So that's on Shanahan. Okay, that's on Shanahan. You I don't know why you're gambling that early in the game, but it seemed that was the MO all over the place in the NFL this week. If you watch the game last night with Nick Sirianni, he did the same thing. I mean, there were a couple other coaches that did it. I just don't understand when you have not beaten the Vikings in how many years, and you're in Minnesota again, and you're playing a team that has a chip on their shoulder, and for the most part against the coaches that had our number last year. Why are you fucking gambling with shit? Just be... In that sense, be safe, kick the field goal. And I get it. You wanted to put the stake in their heart, but it wasn't the place or time. That caused everything to go backwards. I mean, yeah, you could always say in hindsight, well, how the hell did we know that Jefferson was going to catch that? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So, was he outcoached? I don't know if he was outcoached. I don't think he did as good a job as he should have. That's just my opinion. I love Shanahan. Okay, I love Shanahan. Now, to be fair, the offensive line played like complete shit. We've given up 8 sacks in 2 weeks. That's terrible. You're going to get Brock Purdy killed. And I saw Pat Jones, the second sack, come off the edge where Trent Williams is. I think he blitzed from the linebacker position. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know what the problem was. I mean, it seemed to me that they were hitting the gaps pretty hard and kind of making it hard for Purdy to see anything past him. They were collapsing in on him all day long. It looked to me, or for most of the day, for that matter. But the offensive line, I mean, in terms of pass protection, you've given up 8 sacks in 2 weeks. Now, to be fair, the offensive line hasn't looked bad when it comes to run blocking. Although, again, Jordan Mason, being the elusive running back that he is, has a really good knack for finding that outside edge, that little speed at the turn in there. We didn't throw the ball to Juice again. What happened to that? Richard Sherman actually had a really good take on the fact with Brandon Ayuk talking about he feels that Purdy and Ayuk are not on the same page. And I don't know about you guys, but that's the way I feel too. Even though Brandon Ayuk played much better this week than he did last week, there's something off. And this is the problem when you have these contract situations that go on for so long. Now, that being said, Purdy, threw for over 300 yards, which was great. He did throw a pick. Um, it was tipped, okay? But to be fair, it wasn't his best game. It wasn't a terrible game, but it wasn't his best game because there were a couple of questionable passes, to be honest. Deebosamuel had a phenomenal game, but now we lose Deebo. I think this is something that we get used to every year with him, and I think a lot of it has to do with the tenacity in which he plays and the tenacity of the game. Because let's face it, he doesn't play like a prototypical wide receiver. He really hits blocks hard. He runs hard. He plays the game hard. So now we're without him, which I believe is a calf strain. So which basically means now it's going to come down to Juwan Jennings, and it's going to come down to Brandon Ayuk, and I guess it's going to be Chris Conley or Jacob Cowing, who fumbled that punt return on Sunday. Thank God it was recovered. So everything was going wrong for us on Sunday. It was just it was not a game we deserved to win. I think I said that in the third quarter. We don't deserve to win this game. And it showed. The better team won. The Vikings were better than us. They were better than us on Sunday on both sides of the ball. Even running the ball, like I said, there were plays where as Sam Bradford, I think he ran for 15 yards on that. Was it third down that we had? I think it was third down. Him, Chandler, and Jones did their best to just chip away at us and kick the shit out of us. And the Justin Jefferson thing was just the tip of the iceberg. But I think it was more obviously on the offense and the offensive line than it was on the defense, because for the most part, like I said, the defense got a few sacks, right? We had an interception, we forced a fumble on the goal line. So we are not where we need to be right now. It's not there yet, and that's okay. It's early. It could be a lot of things. It could be, for Brandon Ayuk in the offense, it could just be a mix of getting in sync. Because let's face it, Trent Williams, was absent the first couple of weeks, and as was Brandon Ayuk. So it's always going to affect things, and it's going to affect the flow of the offense for a lot of players. For an offense that is in sync for most of the time. We didn't really see much of Isaac Giriendo, right? Didn't see much of him. Didn't hear much of Jusek running the ball. Kittle had a great game. What do you have? 7 catches, 76, and the touchdown. We'll go over some stats. So again, look, I'm happy it happened early because this is a game I worried about, even though, it's Sam Bradford, even though there's no Daniel Hunter, even though, you know, even though nobody picked the Vikings. Now, do I think the Vikings are gonna win 11 games? No, I don't think they're gonna win 11 games. I will say this though: if they can continue to get out of Bradford what they're getting right now, and that defense continuing to play at a high level, they could win 9 or 10 games. Because, excuse me, that division is interesting. I got to give them credit, man. Kevin O'Connell coached the gem, and Brianflores coached the gem. I hope that he's on teams' targets who need a head coach next year, because he is great. He should have never gotten fired from Miami when he was head coach there, and then of course he had that whole incident, where he believed that they were treating him like shit due to his race, which is horrible. But I believe it. Tell you the truth, it's believable to me. Because Flores is a phenomenal defensive mind. I remember reading about him several years ago. He's actually from my neck of the woods in Queens here in New York. And people couldn't stop raving about him. So he's done a great job. He's definitely earned himself a head coaching job somewhere. There's going to be vacancies. Let's talk about again, haven't heard or seen from Javon Hargrove. Devondre Campbell looked good. Okay. Defensive backfield, other than the Justin Jefferson pass, I thought they played pretty damn good. I thought Deommodore Lenoir is really turning himself into a legit number one corner. I think Fred Warner's Fred Warner. He's the best linebacker in football. Bosa's another. Had a phenomenal game. Like I said before, Leonard Floyd, haven't really seen much of him. Are we missing anyone that's gone? I don't really think so. I mean, I'm checking the stats all over the place. Chase Young had a half a sack in Sunday's game when he's in New Orleans. Javon Kinlaw, I don't think we're missing him, obviously, although the Jets did knock off Tennessee. So, again, it's early. It's early on. Um, I'd like to see more out of Robert Beal. I'd like to see him get in there a lot more in some different packages. I mean, this guy was supposed to be good. I want to see more of him. So again, we can't take it all. We can't take it too far because it's only one game. But it was a disaster. I don't care. I'm surprised that the score was that close because at one point it looked to me that it just didn't look right. It looked. I mean, that first half, the first half I did not like. Second half we kind of knuckled down a little bit. Thank God for George Kittle. Debo had himself a game going over the middle, making some great catches. Hence be why he gets hurt because he plays, really intense, like I said. But if it wasn't for him, that score could have been worse. And Jordan Mason, man, 100 yards. So again, we're in a good place when it comes to the running game while McCaffrey's on the injured reserve because Mason is really holding his own. And if he continues on this pace, God knows what's going to be available for him at the end of the season. Imagine you get him and McCaffrey back. That's another thing. I'm happy that injury happened now, too. It's better let it happen now. Let it happen now, man, because things only get harder. Look, we got to play Arizona twice. Arizona is it shredded the Rams. The Rams are in trouble. Thank God we're playing the Rams this week because no Puka Nacua, right? No Cooper Kupp. Kyren Williams was banged around. They're missing several other players. So, but that doesn't mean that can't be a tough game. Could be a trap game. We got to try. You got to go to LA to play that game. So tough weekend, guys. Tough weekend. It was really disappointing. I'm sure all you guys felt the same. I just didn't even have. I haven't posted a lot of the highlight plays from that game, although I will. But to tell you the truth, I was going to do it as the game was in motion, but I just didn't have the heart to do it. I was having a hard time trying to figure out what the hell is going on here. And that's what I kept saying. When is the tide going to turn here? When's that thing coming? Because you know how sometimes this team could be. They could kick in at a certain time, lock in, and things start going a different direction. But let's look at some stats. Purdy, like I said, 28 of 36 for 319, one touchdown, one interception. Sacked 6 times. I said 4. I was incorrect. He was sacked 6 times. Rating of 101.3. Yeah, he's looked great. We knew he was going to have a great season. We know this guy was, bulking up in camp early, preparing from day one. What else would you expect? Jordan Mason, 20 carries, 100 yards, and a touchdown. 2 big back-to-back games. Isaac Gariendo ran the ball once for no yards. Could have fooled me because I didn't even see that, and I watched the whole game. Debo, 8 catches, 110 yards. Kittle, 7 catches, 76 yards. Brandon Ayuk, 4 catches, 43 yards. Juwan Jennings, 2 catches, 37. Eric Sabe, 2 catches, 26. Kyle Juszczyk, 3 for 19. Honestly, I don't even remember Juszczyk catching the ball 3 times. Couldn't tell you. Fumbles. Brock Purdy lost 1. That's 2 turnovers for him. Okay, not good. Defensively, Fred Warner led the way with 9 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 2 passes defense, and an interception. Game ball, big time. Best linebacker in football. Nick Bosa, 2 sacks. Devondre Campbell had 5 tackles. Diamador had 5 tackles. Malik Collins had 4 tackles. Kevin Givens had a sack. Solid defensive tackle. Guy's always giving his best, man. Always. So, yeah, 4 sacks. Not bad. I'll take it. Plus the interception. And Moody, 1 of 1. With Mitch Wishnowsky, the block punt. Early on. Look, Wishnowsky has been a phenomenal punter. Hardly happens to him. It happened. Like I said, they beat us at every end of the field. We did not deserve to win this game, and that's okay. That happens. That's okay. It was similar to last year. We didn't deserve to beat them last year, and we didn't. And that's okay. Frustrating, but hey, it is what it is. For the Vikings, Sam Darnell was 17 to 26 for 268, 2 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. I keep getting him confused with Sam Bradford, and I don't know why. Ty Chandler had 82 yards on the ground. His longest was 25. Sam Darnell, 32. That longest scamper he had was 18. Aaron Jones, we held in check only with 32 yards. And here it was. Justin Jefferson, 4 catches, 133 yards. The 97-yard bomb killed us. We made Jalen Naylor look like a stud. If you go back and watch that Jalen Naylor touchdown, he's naked in the end zone. There's no one near him. I will have that highlight later. Aaron Jones caught 5 passes out of the backfield. Yeah, it's a good team. Good team. We forced 2 turnovers, the pick and the fumble from Aaron Jones. And then on defense, this Blake Cashman, who was drafted by the Jets, became a stud with the Texans and now is playing with Minnesota, led the way with 13 tackles, 1 sack, 3 passes defended against, and 1 quarterback hit. And then Pat Jones, the second, had 2 sacks. Andrew Van Ginkel had a sack. Jonathan Green, you think about it. 2 guys that they spent a lot of money to get, Van Ginkel and Greenard, who came from the Texans. There's a hell of a team, man. Very underrated. And then Josh Metellus had the pick for 12 yards. But other than that, let's look at team stats. You really want to know the game? If you didn't watch it, here's the stats that matter the most. On third down, we were 2 of 10. That's 20%. The Vikings were 7 of 12. There's your game. There's your game. We beat them in total plays, 67 to 54. In total yards, they had 4 more yards than we did. They're 403 to our 399. Yards per play, they were averaging 7.5 yards per play. They were just getting chunks of yardage to our 6, which isn't bad. Passing yards, we had 297 to their 257. Rushing yards, they're 146 to our 102, like we always say. My new name should be the broken record. When we hold opponents under 100 yards, for the most part, I'd say 90% of the time, we win. That is not the case here. Penalties, not bad. Four penalties for 30 yards. They had 7 for 53. 2 weeks in a row, we've been good with the penalties. And we outheld them on the clock. 34 minutes, 48 seconds to their 25 minutes and 12 seconds. So the analytics was sort of with us, but that only means so much. Now, this week, we will be playing the Rams in SoFi. And like I said, the Rams are banged up pretty bad. Just by looking at this early report, they're without Jonah Jackson, they're without Cooper Kupp, they're without John Johnson III, and they're without Puka Nacua. But you never know what's going to go on here with this team, with the Rams. You don't know what kind of Rams you're getting. Week 1, they didn't look too bad, but this is an opportunity for us to win. We got to bounce back from this game. I want to see a better called game by Shanahan, and I want to see a much better game up front from the offensive line. We need to see a lot more pressure on quarterbacks. That's one thing I feel like is just not there yet. And maybe because it's just a case of a lot of new guys getting assembled in place, or a lot of new guys getting used to, the schemes and the defense and everything. But, another beacon of light is the fact that in 2 weeks, we've only given up, 19 the first week, gave up 23 this week. So that's an average. That's 41 points altogether, or 42 points altogether. I'm sorry. Yeah, 42 points. I checked myself, which isn't too bad if you look around the league. But again, when you don't win, what good is it to you? So bad loss, man. Bad loss. But like I said, thank God it's now and not later. Thank God it's not the middle of the season or towards the end. It happened now. So, it just could be the rust is wearing off too from the offseason. I don't know. All I know is we need to see Shanahan call a different game this Sunday. Hopefully Isaac Garendo gets into the running game, because obviously it can't become just strictly Well, it is the Jordan Mason show right now, but in terms of fatigue and everything, I would like to see more utilization of the backup quarterback and of the fullback for that matter. So we're going to have to see. And now without Deebo, Ayuk steps up. We'll see if he really earns his money. And Juwan Jennings, and we'll see who the third receiver is going to be. I think it's probably Chris Conley, being that he's the veteran. I don't know, but we shall see, man. Hopefully, a better outcome for us this week against the Rams. So, I'll be coming at you with some more content. I'll be putting up those highlights from the game. Just look out for them. All right, peace.